Welcome back to episode 4 of Rings and Things. I am your host with the most, Prowler 71. As many of you know me as just regular Prowler, you can call me that. 71 is just that's sentimental. It's my old football number. That's why I had to throw it in there. So
Comes from a long line of Prowlers. There were 70 before him, but he's here
that's
now.
actually that's accurate. Yeah, screw football. It's all about that. That's how it is. For those of you who are wondering what voice that was my co-host, my amazing dude, my pal, my friend, Ace. Ace, how we doing today, buddy?
Doing good, man. Like, didn't have any work at the brewery this weekend. The wife was out of town. She was at a bachelorette party this weekend, so she just came back home last night at midnight, and back swinging into the swing of things here. Just got home with groceries, so I just did the grocery Olympics. I'm waiting for the call from Paris because I was able to successfully carry like 13 bags into the house at once. So I'm ready to represent our country here, the United States of America, and bring home a gold medal at the grocery Olympics. But going great, dude. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that she had a great time at the bachelorette party, and you kicked ass bringing in groceries. That is,
oh yeah.
If there's
highlight
one thing
of my weekend when you're dead.
I was gonna say, if that's one thing that went positive this weekend, it's the grocery carrying. Every guy can attest to that. So
yeah.
But I'm extra excited today because we happen to have our very first guest on this podcast, Rings and Things, Arcane. ArcaneHemlock, for those of you who aren't aware, is an amazing and awesome sauce. Yeah, that's right. I'm saying the awesome sauce words for her. Twitch streamer that is a part of the community that I recently joined a few months ago called The Tavern. Dropped that on one of the previous episodes in here. And we have her on today to kind of do like a little interview, just hanging out, talking video games, all the fun stuff. So
love it.
I'm going to turn the microphone over to her and let her introduce herself. Arcane, how are you today?
Well, hi, I'm doing great. So glad to be here. Thank you both for this opportunity to be on the podcast with you guys. Like Prowler mentioned, I'm a Twitch streamer. My handle is ArcaneHemlock. I stream a lot of variety, kind of whatever I'm feeling in the mood for. Kind of just take it as it comes, but it's been a lot of fun.
I am so glad to hear it. And like I said, part of The Tavern, which is a great community if you guys are unaware, usually in either my Twitch, Arcane's Twitch, other people's Twitches. We'll get you the information if you need to know who's in The Tavern. There's plenty of amazing people, and like I said, she happens to be one of them. I don't want to toot my own horn. I mean, I'm okay, but like at the end of the day, go watch Arcane stream. She's a lot better than I am because she's been doing it for a lot longer than I have. So, but
yeah,
speaking of how long,
don't sell yourself short, Prowler. You're awesome sauce too.
That shucks. Don't make me blush over here. Yeah. Well, actually, somebody that we need to get in The Tavern eventually is this guy down here with us. Is Ace. He just made his triumphant return. So really quickly before we get to Arcane. Ace, how's streaming going again? What was it? This past week you just started again, correct?
Yeah. Back in the saddle again, man. Finished school, so done with that. I don't have to worry about submitting assignments on Sundays anymore when I'm working, and it's good. So fired up the old Twitch machine again, and I realized that all of my overlays were broken and all of my plugins weren't working. So it was just like the first time again. But they say it's like riding a bike, right? You just jump right back on and you're good to go. But it was fun. We started streaming Dark Forces, which I had mentioned previously on an episode. The very first Star Wars FPS. So we're going to continue that journey here soon. But yeah, really excited about that. You can follow my Twitch account that is officially active again at Ace043 on Twitch. So hope to see you guys there.
That's right. And he actually, Arcane, you're going to enjoy this. He actually got me into Baldur's Gate 3. That's one of the first things that we played the other day. So on his stream, I'm going to have to start streaming it as well because like I said, I tried it the one time and my computer was like, we don't like this. But like we said, Ace is getting back into the game, but I want to throw it back to Arcane. How long have you been streaming on Twitch? And if I got to ask, what inspired you to first either get into it or either try it out? Did you have any influences or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've been streaming for a little over a year now. I started actually May 1st of last year. So it's been a bit of time. It goes faster than you think. And honestly, I'm so glad I started. I don't regret it for a second. It's been an incredible journey. And then, I've been wanting to start streaming for a while, but I had to build up the confidence to do it. I had to figure out how you actually start streaming. So I had to do a lot of research for that. But then back to like what inspired me to stream, you know, I grew up playing video games. It's always been a part of my life. I would always play with my siblings. They would always watch me play, ask me to play for them. So it kind of went back to that like playing for an audience kind of thing. So Twitch was kind of like a good platform for me to go back to that. And then honestly, one of my biggest inspirations for it is I discovered this channel called Secret Sleepover Society on YouTube. And I started like binging their VODs like crazy. So I was just watching through it. There are a couple that streams. They were hilarious. And I found myself just putting them on as background noise when I'm doing something else, as something to put on to just cheer me up if I'm having a down day. And I kind of thought like, you know, how do I do this for me? How do I have fun like this? How do I interact with the community like how they're doing?
Yeah.
And the more I watched them, the more I was like, I think I can actually do this. So it was a lot of that. So, you know, I just thought it would be so cool to build up a community like they did.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned playing games growing up.
Mm-hmm.
You had siblings. Were you the oldest? Were you the youngest? Middle sibling?
I am the second oldest out of 7 total. So
holy smokes. Okay.
Yeah.
Your parents are busy. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So when you have that many siblings, like what was the age difference? Were you guys all pretty close together, or was there a big discrepancy?
Close.
Okay.
We're mostly a couple years apart, except for the youngest. They're a little more of a gap, more like 5 to 7 years between the next one.
Okay.
And the youngest are actually twins. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't ever find yourself getting stuck with like that crappy joystick drift controller, the Mad Catz controller? You always had a pretty good claim on the good one.
No. I mean, older sibling privileges only go so far. And if everybody's playing, you know, the controllers are not in the best condition. But,
yeah,
you know, there was always those fights. You have to put the game away. You know, don't leave it out. Put it back in the case. Don't get it scratched up. And
don't play on my save file.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So much of that. Yeah.
It's funny. I hear so many of those stories, and I'm an only child, so I don't know what any of you guys are talking about. And I just got to say, it's so glorious not having to deal with that, because my save files were never an issue with me. But
no,
but
that
you never had
crazy.
any built-in competition for like Super Mario Kart 64 and like the battle mode with the balloons taking them down. Every day after school, we would just go at it.
I had plenty of friends to duke it out with, trust me. But it was the nice thing was at the end of the hangout sesh, I got to go home and solo it out and be like, yeah I'm fair. Good. Where they had to battle, they were like brothers and sisters. Where I didn't have to deal with that. So
nice. I have one more question for Arcane. Sorry, Prowler. What was the game that you guys kind of played most as like a familial, you know, collab type situation? Like I just referenced Mario Kart 64. That was a big one in my household, as was the original Halo. Like, what did you guys play a lot when you were young?
Oh yeah, so there was definitely a lot of Mario Kart. There was a lot of Super Smash Bros.
Oh yeah.
And then we were actually super into one of the Naruto games. It was like Clash of Ninja 2 or something like that. It's because we were super into anime too. So we were just battling it out with each other. And, you know, I like to think I'm pretty good at the video games. So, you know, my family would always get mad at me for actually knowing how to play and knowing the combos and stuff.
Yeah,
like, how do you keep doing that? I'm like, you just look at the combos and you can do it too.
Not me. I just spam the same thing in Super Smash. I find something that works and I just spam it. Awesome.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, so Super Smash, full disclosure with Mario Kart, I'm the same way. I'm Bowser in Super Smash. I'm Bowser in Mario Kart. And it doesn't work well for me. I think that's why I don't play Super Smash as much anymore, but it's okay. It's fine. But actually, speaking of games that, like you said, you touched on your history with them there. I'm curious. So for your first, either your console or games that really got you into video games, Arcane, like what was there like a defining one really that just kind of put you on the path of being like, okay, for like myself, we talked about I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. For Ace, it's Halo really that spoke to him. Was there anything that really jumped out to you being like, okay, I'm a gamer now because this is just like tractor beam, like sucked you right in? What do we got?
Oh yeah, so I think the two for me would be Legend of Zelda. On the GameCube. So we had like a collector's edition that had both like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, a whole bunch of like older ones too. So we played that a bunch of times. So that really got me into like the story-based kind of stuff and really getting connected to characters too. Because even though Link doesn't talk, you still feel connected to him as the hero. You still have Zelda's whole thing, you know, defeating Ganondorf, the big bad. So that really got me into that side of it. And then also Harvest Moon, surprisingly. So that got me into like cozy games, farming games. I would play that a lot. My sister would play that a lot. So we were just super into that, just getting as far as you can get. And, this was before you could just look up every little thing on the internet mostly, or before we had access to do that just on your phone. So we'd be taking notes, like, oh, what is this character like? She likes, X, Y, and Z. She likes to receive this. She hates when you give her this. So we just had notes for everything, hard events, all that stuff. So it was just a whole thing.
That's speaking right up my alley, because you just like flashback my brain into like the times when we played Resident Evil and like the original like Dino Crisis on like PlayStation 1, where it was like you found like a note in the game that had like, oh, this is the combination to open this door or for this locker that you need to unlock. And it was like you said, we didn't have cell phones or like anything back then. So it's like, I think I used to go through my old games and I would find like notepad paper shoved in there with like codes and different things written down. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, oh, now I remember what this is. We didn't have like technology back then. This is what I had to use to do this. So I completely get that aspect of it.
We mentioned it on a previous episode too, like back in the days where you had to like get the companion handbook guide to the games. Like you would go to like Walmart or even Toys R Us back then would be selling the games, and you'd go in there and be like, all right, I can't just buy the game. I got to get the handbook too, so I'm not like left behind by all my friends. Like I got to know what I got to know. So yeah, for those of you kids that are listening, which you probably aren't, you don't understand the struggle.
The Prima strategy guides. I mean, they're
exactly.
They're collectors now. I can tell you, if you find a Prima, make sure you hold on to that sucker, because it's probably going to be worth something someday. But okay, so we talked about what your kind of the games that got you into gaming. So do you have between like Harvest Moon and what you were talking about? Do you have a favorite either genre or like a franchise or a game that maybe you're more invested in right now specifically? It could be streaming wise, or it could be like outside of streaming. Is there anything that really has a hold of you currently, I would say? And then also kind of to play off of that too, do you have a favorite either moment, either gaming and or streaming? Whatever you want to talk about here, feel free to. The floor is yours, but I'm curious I want all the positivity here. Like, give me all your favorite stuff. That's what we want to hear.
Oh yeah. So, favorite's always such a tough thing to choose because there's so much good content and good stuff out there. But definitely one of the ones I've mentioned so far as like favorite games in general would definitely be Legend of Zelda series. So I mentioned the two before, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. I have played those. I can't even count how many times. I've played those way too many times. So those are definitely up there. All the Harvest Moon, Rune Factory type games are up there. The Last of Us is definitely up there as one of my favorite games. It's just in its own category. It's something else.
Part one. We've had this discussion.
One, yes. I have not played part 2, so I can't speak on that.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge part 2.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't.
No. I mean, I haven't given it a fair chance yet because, again, I haven't beaten it. But if you know, you know. I can't yet.
That's right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's tough. But other like favorite genres and stuff definitely lean into like RPGs. Again, like narrative story-based games. I really enjoy rhythm games too. So I definitely had I know we've talked about it before, but the Guitar Hero phase was real. Rock Band, definitely played all of those a bunch. Even Fortnite has its rhythm game mode now too, Fortnite Festival, which I've been huge on. So that's been a lot of fun because it's kind of taken me back and reminding me of like my Guitar Hero days and playing on expert and getting all the highest scores and stuff. So it's been super fun in that sense.
That's right.
Do you ever get expert on Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force?
Right. I'm sure I did back in the day.
Oh,
if they add it to Festival, we're waiting for it. We'll see if they add it. If
it's as insane as it was on Guitar Hero, I think a lot of people are going to get very upset very quickly with that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you got those, especially RPGs. That's a big one. I know for me specifically, I feel like I'm very picky when it comes to RPGs, right? Like you and I have had a conversation before Arcane where like, I think I told you I played the last one that I really sunk my teeth into was the Tales of Arise, where I played that one from beginning to end and I loved it. Like I had a blast with it. and it was cool because I enjoyed the graphics and stuff. Like it seemed like I was playing an anime almost with the way that everything went through, and I really enjoyed that. And spoiler alert for those, well, not spoiler alert, but for you guys out there listening, if you're wondering who the Arcane was that recommended One Piece to me, this is the Arcane that we're talking to right now. So I'm still watching that. So trust me,
Good.
it's gonna take me a while to catch up to you guys, but I'm gonna get there at some point. But I guess I kind of want to go on the opposite path now, where from the favoritisms and all this, and see, are there any games that you tend to either stay away from or that you're not like the biggest fan of? And is it like more so like, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Like, I feel, for me personally, like I used to really enjoy Call of Duty, COD. I'm sorry, young kids, if you're listening, if that's what we have to call it. And then I feel like recently I've transitioned away from it because it's become such a different genre with the battle royale and stuff, where I don't mind those in the slightest, but at the same time, it's not particularly my cup of tea, is the best way I'll put it. So is there anything that you dislike, or maybe something you enjoyed beforehand that maybe doesn't speak to you as much anymore?
Well, definitely along like least favorite genre would be like PvP, FPS kind of games, like Call of Duty. Those are, like you said, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Which again does make it surprising that I do actually like Fortnite, but I don't know why that one is different. It just is. But yeah, typically first person shooters are not my thing. The PvP, I can handle like some competitiveness. Obviously, like Mario Kart and Super Smash, those are hella competitive. But for some reason, the Call of Duty, I can't do it. I just don't like it. It's not for me. Yeah, so I'd be up there as one of my least favorites for sure.
That's completely fair. I get that. Like I said, it's to each their own. I mean, for the big thing, I'm trying to think is like, I used to be hardcore like Nintendo everything, and then it's so difficult now where they did that transition to like when they went from the like to the Wii and then the Switch and all that, right? Like a lot of people I know fell off where it's like they didn't want to do all the wacky wavy controllers and all that stuff. They're like, no, just give me a controller in my hand and let me play that stuff. So I get that aspect of things. But now I got to ask. So I want to give you like a hot take out of you here, where I hope you thought about this one. And I was ready to ask you this. So it's like, if you have a game that everyone enjoyed but you disliked, and then if you want, give me the vice versa of that, where a game everyone hated but you enjoyed. And Ace, if you want to jump in on this too, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But we'll go to Arcane first and see what she says. I'm excited to hear this.
Okay, you're right. So I had to think about this one a little bit. But a game everyone enjoyed, but I dislike would definitely be Among Us. I did not understand the craze for it. And it just is not something I enjoy. I much prefer games where you cooperate with players instead of against players. And I did not like just the whole concept of it and having to vote it out and like lie to your friends about who did what and getting blamed for things that you did or didn't do. I'm like, it's not for me. I know so many people love it. I can't get into it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Mm-hmm. And then the flip side of it, a game everyone hated, but I enjoyed. I kind of had a tough time with this because I couldn't think of something that was like super hated or like not well received by a large amount of people. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that came to mind would be like strategy, turn-based games, kind of like Fire Emblem. So I know that does have its own huge fan base as well. But again, I know it's not for everybody. And I just go back to remembering when I was playing like one of the games in high school or something, on the family console. So only, it took up the whole TV. Everybody had to watch me play. And I just remember my dad coming in and be like, what are you even playing? Like, this is so boring. I'd rather watch paint dry than watch you play this game. So that's what came to my head for that one.
Perfect. I get it. Ace, do you have anything that on there that on the list that maybe you enjoyed that people disliked, or vice versa?
I mean, like I've said, I really enjoy my single player narrative games and those kind of story based games. A lot of people are like, the world that we live in, everyone wants to play online and with other people. And it's like, sometimes I like to just step in my own little world and disassociate with the craziness that's around me. So those are kind of like the genre that I think that fits one of those buckets. The other one, I've already made my opinion known on Destiny and Destiny 2. So I'm not going to talk anymore about those.
I get it. No, I get it. For me personally, actually, I thought about this a little bit too. And for me, one that I think like is like universally loved in the nostalgic sense of it that I personally never got into, and this kind of goes to what Arcane was talking about, this, the strategy turn-based stuff is like Command and Conquer. Like back in the day, that was the game that and I apologize. I know people are probably gonna, it's blasphemy for some people, but I was just one of those people that I could not get into Command and Conquer. I just couldn't
Yeah.
do it. And it was just, it was nothing against the game. Like I'm sure it's a great game and everything. I just tried with the whole strategy thing, and I think feel like it goes back to like the whole, what was it, the OG like StarCrafts and those type
Yeah,
of,
there was definitely a rise in the real time strategy
yeah,
genre, you know, in the especially in like the really early 2000s, like as computer hardware was starting to get better, like that was the genre. You had Age of Empires, you had Command and Conquer, you had Warcraft, you had StarCraft. Like Blizzard really made their money off that real time strategy genre, and I really enjoyed it. My big thing is that I was so young during that time that I couldn't compete with all the sweaty guys that were like in their mid 30s at the time, like me now. And these guys were just steamrolling like the 12, 11, 10-year-old me. So I ended up going to the more simple games to play back then.
that's accurate. I was gonna say, and then there was another game too that I I enjoyed, but I remember it was funny. It was like, I don't want to say it was like a hot take here because I know a lot of people still enjoy this franchise, but like the Mortal Kombat, like the fighting genre type games, I personally like enjoy them, but I suck at them. So it's like I know people get so infuriated where like not so much like the Smash Bros, but like just straight up like fight like
Yeah.
Tekken, Mortal Kombat, like those games. I love them, but I'm so terrible at them. And it's just like I want to play them all the time, but I know I'm just gonna get wrecked every time I turn the controller on. And I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So
I feel like those are like more technical fighting games, and so many people like they love their fighting games and that's all they play, and then they become hyper technical about it. Like when I play fighting games, I want to treat it like it's a party game, right?
oh
I
yeah.
just want to sit down and play with other people that are not taking it serious, have some laughs, like, oh my god, you just kicked my ass, my button spamming is not working. Like with those, I feel like there's some people out there that are like, oh no, you have to execute this combo and then that combo, and then it's just not fun for me. Like it becomes a challenge to see if you can even execute the combos the right way. And I'm right there with you.
I was gonna say Arcane sitting there like I'm the one that hits those combos, so I'm just wrecking both of you guys all over the place with that. So
Oh yeah.
she's yeah. I was gonna say I was like I saw the smile. I was like, oh,
I
she
am
knows
that person,
exactly.
yes.
She knows exactly what we're talking about. But
Mhm.
I completely get it. Before we talked about with streaming and everything, for me personally, I made a YouTube video a while ago. I got to get back to the YouTube videos. Actually, this is a good reminder for myself. Middle of a podcast, great timing. Anyway, for the YouTube, I put out a video about like why you should consider streaming on Twitch. And it was a great time for me to sit there and think about all the things that, like, kind of going back to what you're talking about, Arcane, where you kind of had the OG Twitch people that you followed, and you could have it as background noise, or it was just like almost like a comfort sound to be there. And I used to do the same as well because I've been on Twitch for I think over a decade at this point, listening to like the big guys like your Lyric, Carnage, Co Carnage, and those guys. And then of course when Mrs. Prowler's, cousins got into it, that's when I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is something I could do too if they're getting into it. So this is cool. But I got to ask you, for you personally, and, Ace, will, like I said, the three of us can talk about this. How has streaming impacted either, your life in terms of like socially or, through your family or anything? Like, how good has it been since you said you've been doing it for about a year now? So, would you recommend it, essentially, is what I'm asking? Is like, if people are out there contemplating being like, hey, do I want to pick up a microphone and a camera and be like, do I want to play some games? Or doesn't even have to be video games, it could just be streaming in general. Would you recommend it?
Oh yeah, 100% would recommend. If you ever thought about it, are thinking about it, I would say to just do it. Because if you're already playing the games and you kind of want some kind of interaction, it's such a cool thing, honestly. And you can meet so many new people, like even Prowler Ace. I never would have met you guys if I never started streaming. I never would have made as many friends as I did without streaming. And it's just so cool to see such a amazing supportive community start to grow the more you start streaming, the more you get into it. And then even on a more personal level, like it has really impacted my self-confidence and like just awareness and comfortability just being myself, both on stream and off stream. So it's made a huge difference with that.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, for me personally, it's funny because I sit here and especially when I'm streaming or when I'm like talking to people, like people are like, wow, this guy's really like positive and has a lot of energy. And if you met me in real life, you're like, this is the grumpiest bastard I've ever met. Like, what is he doing? Like, that's just generally who I am, I feel like. And it's funny because Mrs. Prowler calls me out on that all the time. She's like, you're always grumpy. And then I hear you either podcasting or streaming and you're so positive. What happened? I'm like, I don't know. It's what happens. It's my personality.
Tell her to redeem the household channel points and you'll perk up.
Get those Prowler points saved up. She's the VIP of my real life stream every day. So I brownie points for us right there. But Ace, how about you? How I know you're just getting back into the streaming aspect, but beforehand when you were doing it, what do you got for pros and cons?
I really enjoyed tuning into some of my friends. So for a little bit there, I was between jobs and I'm sitting at home and I'm applying to jobs online on Indeed and LinkedIn, and I'm getting so like down in the dumps because it was just a crappy situation. So I end up pulling up Twitch and I just found somebody that was streaming, a small community streamer, like average like 10, 15 viewers, and just a really cool dude that was due to X, Y, or Z. He was also, you know, at home, not working, and he was trying to bring in some income, but he's like, I love games. My family encourages it. And it's all worked out. And, you know, he and his community kind of were the ones that were like, well, if you want to try it, just try it. And I'm like, well, I don't have a career commitment right now. Why not? So I ended up jumping into the deep end because of that. And, you know, his community's always been really good. You know, shout out the Young Beef. So give him a follow. But, you know, since I started streaming, you know, I've made some really good friends. I've met bunch of other communities that I can just jump into a voice channel with and hang out with them for hours and hours, and they'll stream like a NASCAR race or like a sporting event. And we'll just put a few adult beverages back as we just hang. It's no different than going out to the pub with like your in real life friends, right? There's no difference. Like, the people you meet online, I've heard of so many people like, oh, you know, the people that you have online friendships with, it's not the same thing as being like in person. I met some of these people for the first time when I went down to PAX East, and it wasn't like meeting somebody for the first time. We all knew each other already, despite never interacting with each other face to face. So really enjoy streaming. I can't wait to do it more. The other funny thing is I've talked about it being a dad many times already, but when I'm streaming, my daughters are like, Dad, are you streaming? And where can I find your stream? My friends want to watch your stream. I'm like, no, don't tell your friends about my stream. I don't want other parents to be like, oh God, that guy, he's you know, what's her face's legal name, government name's dad. He streams. He has a very big potty mouth online. So I'm like, no, that's not a thing. So that's always been really, really fun for me too.
I 100% get that, and it's funny because I've definitely noticed more so where I had like a coworker's like son jump in my stream one time, and it was just like one of those streams where I was probably like rage quitting like Elden Ring or Mario Kart, and it was like every other word out of my mouth was the F word, and I'm just like, oh hey little guy, I'm so sorry, you came in at the wrong time. Like it says right there at the bottom 18 plus. Please. And I know you're not 18 plus. And it's like going to work the next day and seeing my coworker just looking at me being like, nice stream yesterday, dickhead. And I'm like, all right, well, I tried my best. Okay. So
that's why I believe in a very strict separation of church and state, if you will. So
I 100% get that. But this kind of leads, this is a nice little segue into, I guess, my next question for both of you is like, if you guys had to pick any advice that you would either tell yourself before you started streaming, or like a genuine advice for anybody who is contemplating streaming now, do you have anything that you would either recommend, like either doing or thinking about prior to that? And Arcane, we'll start with you. Do you have anything?
So I think I kind of mentioned it before, but definitely comes down to just do it, because the hardest part is getting started. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. Not everything has to be perfect. And as a perfectionist myself, I have definitely had to take that lesson. But not everything has to be perfect. Things can and will break. OBS will fail you. You will have mic issues, and it's okay. Like, you can prepare as much as you can, but things will still happen. And again, it's okay. So just don't sweat that stuff as much. Just get started. And then also just to play what you like and enjoy, because it's so much more difficult to stream something that you're not enjoying. And you can be more yourself when you're streaming and doing something that you actually like to do. And you'll find that even if you're playing variety and stuff, Sure, the game might be what initially brings people to your stream, but I find that the community, the viewers, they will stay for you. They come to watch you. So it's just something to keep in mind for sure.
I love that. That's absolutely spot on. Ace, you got anything to follow up with that?
Yeah, and I would also say, the path to becoming a streamer and the path to affiliate is something that a lot of people focus on. And while it's important to keep an eye on the metrics and stuff like that, so you can get to that point of, partially monetizing your channel, it's not the most important thing. Don't worry about minimum view counts. Just go in there, have a good time. Like Arcane was saying, if you are being a genuine person and you're just streaming what you enjoy, that passion will come through. And that will organically eventually create viewers, and you'll get to where you need to be to become an affiliate, maybe even a partner one day. Don't stress out about it too much and don't focus on the metrics.
That 100% I couldn't agree with more with, because my big thing that it took me a while, and going back to like what both of you just said, is like when I first started streaming, obviously it was about the metrics, trying to get affiliate, and people were pumping me up, which is completely fine, and I don't regret that in the slightest. But my biggest problem was, for a really long time, even after hitting affiliate, I left that viewer count on when I was streaming, when on Streamlabs, which I know, blasphemy. I got to switch to OBS. Everybody tells me that. I'll get to it eventually. But being said, Streamlabs, like it would always be like that viewer count would just be like boring a hole into my eye socket, because it's like I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, I only have 0 people right now, or I got 1 or 2 people, and it's like you find yourself sitting there in front of the microphone being like, well, I don't want to talk to nobody, so what am I doing? But then it's like the biggest like bliss moment that it hit me like a ton of bricks was when I finally turned that damn viewer count off. And now it's just like, I don't care if there's 100 people watching or 0 people watching. Like, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna have fun, and like you both touched on, I'm gonna play the games that I enjoy playing. And that was like a big like renaissance for me, because I was like taking a step back from streaming for a while, and then I started getting into the Sonic the Hedgehog games, and I was like, okay, this is like reinventing myself. And like I feel like now when I go live, like you see this expression of me where I'm like, I'm not that grumpy guy that everybody thinks I am. I'm like, hey, I'm having fucking fun. This is awesome. Like, look at me. I like getting my ass kicked by Dr. Robotnik. It's the worst, but I love it anyway. Like, I'm going to keep doing it. So 100% agree with both of you. To absolutely do the things that you enjoy doing.
Well, I mean, to that point too, I mean, even if you're a brand new streamer and you do have that viewer count up and it says 0 viewers, if you're just sitting there staring at the screen and acting grouchy and not interacting, like even if I have 0 viewers, I'm going to be like, man, I really messed that up. What a joke. Somebody should clip that. And like, because if I jump into a stream that has like 1 viewer and then somebody's actively engaging with the content that they're creating and not just looking to a screen, like not doing anything, I'm probably going to go to the next stream. But if the person's like, wow, I should have clipped that. That was terrible. I'm going to jump in chat and be like, wow, that was pretty terrible. You should do it again. And, that's how you create community. That's how you create engagement and everything. So don't overthink it, guys. It's very simple. Have fun.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, that's the big thing with, especially when I visit Arcane streams, obviously the damn time zones keep me from being able to enjoy hours of them, but I try and get in there for a little bit. And kudos to her. I watched her Elden Ring stream. What was it? A couple weeks ago, where you kicked, was it Margit's butt, right? Margit or
and Godric, one of them.
Godric. That was, yes. Godric the Grafted. I remember because when you got to like the dragon part and you were like, let's do this, like punching your fists together, I was like, Arcane's got this. She's gonna kick the crap out of that dude.
You're a masochist. I can't play that game. Like, I loaded in once and I'm like, all right, this is easy. We got a cool roll thing over here. I got this awesome weapon, and I go to this one. The very first like vanilla monster I run into just kicks my ass. I'm like, I can't. No way.
Elden Ring is humbling. You think you're a gamer and you're like, oh yeah, I'm so skilled. Like, it looks easy. I could do it, until you actually play. And you're like, oh, this is what a Souls-like is like. Like, oh my God, okay. But no, it's fun. It's the challenge itself it's tough, but once you overcome it, there's nothing like that feeling.
Yeah, I was afraid like that red "you died" thing would get burned into my monitor.
I'm sure it's probably been burned into a few people's monitors at this point. Now, now you're a veteran of was it Lies of P? Was like really one of the first ones you played, right, Arcane? Or
so I played Lies of P, and that was my first Souls-like game. And that was also a lot of fun. It's different from Elden Ring, but also super similar to Elden Ring. And Lies of P, I feel bad because I really have to go back, and I wanted to beat it before I even ever started Elden Ring, but I got stuck in Lies of P, as is what happens in some Souls-like games. So
That's funny. I was actually having a conversation about Elden Ring because I'm one of those people that I sat down and I played through the whole thing. I beat it and I felt like the ultimate champion. I was like, that was the greatest experience ever. And I was like, I'm never picking up that game again because I do not want to go through how much infuriation I went through playing that game. And then the DLC came out and it was just like, I kind of want to get back into it, play the DLC. And
Right.
then I did that stream a couple weeks ago where I played it for like 2 hours on the weekend. And I was like, I really don't know if I can get back into this. Cause I was just like, like Ace, you said, you run into the first like monster and you're just like, this isn't that bad. And they take you out in 2 hits. And you're like, now I remember why I quit this damn game in the first place. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
Back in the
brutal.
day where you played games on like CDs, I went to Redbox and I got Dark Souls for a rental. And I
Yep.
was like, oh, okay, let's check out to see what this hype is about. And then that happened. I'm like, yeah, thank God I got this at Redbox because this is going back early. Like, I'm not doing this. So, speaking of Souls types games, Arcane, have you checked out Another Crab's Treasure before?
I have not. I have seen a couple people play parts of it. It looks adorable, but frustrating in the same way because it's basically Elden Ring but cute.
Yes, yes. Yeah, like mix Elden Ring with like The Little Mermaid, and that is
Yeah.
Another Crab's Treasure. So,
Oh yeah, I definitely would try it in the future, I think, because it seems right up my alley, honestly.
excellent, excellent.
Yeah, I've seen a few people play that, and I actually contemplated the same thing. And I was just like, oh, heaven forbid Mrs. Prowler saw me playing that because she'd be like, I want to play it because she loves The Little Mermaid. It's like her favorite Disney like movie ever. And I'll be like, you're gonna last like 0.2 milliseconds playing this game, and she'd be like, why? And I'm like, here you go, take control of the
You'll
little crab
see.
and see what happens. Exactly.
Mhm.
She wants to break my controllers for me when I play Mario Kart, so I couldn't imagine her trying to play a Souls-like game. That just would be bad news bears, if you ask
Dude,
me.
I think I told you this before, but in the room that I grew up in, there was a hole in my wall that my Xbox controller could still fit into. Like
Oh,
I could
no.
put it in the wall. Yeah. That's Halo 2 online, baby. That's Halo 2 online.
Yeah, there's plenty of games like that.
You get shot and you blame the lag, not skill.
Mhm.
That's everybody knows that. It's never your problem. It's always
Right.
the other people
No,
that you're
never.
It's
playing
not a
against.
skill
Yeah.
issue. What are you saying?
Yeah, my internet lagged out. That's all it was. Well, I'm curious. So for either of you, I guess because we're always perpetually looking forward to what's going on either in society or anything like that, and we're now in a day and age where there's such big, huge, amazing announcements between movies or games or shows coming out. And I know we got a bunch of them that we like to talk about on here. But Arcane, I want to get into your thoughts about this first and foremost to see, do you have any, it could be literally anything if you want to talk about at this point, but I guess we'll start with games. Are there any upcoming games really that you are looking forward to that are either like you haven't pre-ordered or you're waiting for the sequel or anything like that? Like, I know obviously we talked about the Legend of Zelda. She's getting her own game finally. It's not going to be, and everybody's making the joke, it should be Legend of Link at this point because you're playing as Zelda instead. So is that a game you're looking forward to, or do you have
Oh,
other
yeah.
ones that you have?
Yeah, and that was one I actually had at the forefront of my mind for ones I'm excited for because again, like you said,
Perfect.
we are finally getting a game where we can play as Zelda herself, the princess herself. And like you said, it's Legend of Zelda, and we never get to play as Zelda. So it's like we finally get our chance. It looks so cute. I like that it's in the style of the Link's Awakening because I really like that one too. So I'm super excited to play it. Can't wait
That's
for
awesome.
it.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Ace, do you have any games that you're looking forward to currently?
Big Star Wars nerd. Really looking forward to Star Wars Outlaws
Outlaw?
that's coming out.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's going to be the world's first open world Star Wars game. It's published by Ubisoft. I'm very, very excited. Everyone is down on the Star Wars content right now, but I am just eating it up. The Acolyte season finale just happened, and that was awesome. So really, really excited for Star Wars Outlaw. I believe that comes out August 30th. So right around the corner, just over a month until Star Wars Outlaw release.
Did you see the 10-minute gameplay that they released a couple days ago?
I did. It looked so good to me, and I cannot wait.
Good. I'm glad. I was going to say
All the Star Wars
saw
fans
that.
are going to complain because there's a female protagonist, and I can tell them all to just go F themselves. Who cares? It's going to be a
That's
fun
right.
story.
That's right. That's what we care about here is just awesome sauce, plots, characters, everything. That's what we want to see. No, none of that shenanigans. Actually, I was just thinking now because I talked about One Piece earlier. I saw the news that Jamie Lee Curtis was in talks to potentially play a character for the live action One Piece but I think things fell through on that. Arcane, did we talk about this? Are you a fan of the live One Piece show, or does it not do justice to the anime?
Oh no, I thought they did a fabulous job with the live action. I thought they actually did. It's probably like the best anime live action I've seen, honestly, and not just saying that because I like One Piece. Like the casting was spot on, the story was on, and I think the biggest difference was that the creator of One Piece was heavily involved with creating the live action. So I think that's where a lot of live actions mess up. They don't have the creators involved, or they have them involved at the start, but then they leave for various reasons or another. But no, they did a really good job. And actually, that's one of the TV shows I'm obviously super excited about coming, is season 2 of the live action. So they've been releasing the casting for it recently, and that looks super good already. And like you said, they were potentially getting Jamie Lee Curtis, or at least she expressed interest in playing a role, which she would be absolutely perfect. She would kill it. But I do also like that they've been selecting actors and actresses that are kind of no name. You know, they're not really well known. So it's kind of cool that they've been sticking with that. But again, it would be super cool to see Jamie Lee Curtis in it.
I get it. Oh, go ahead, Ace.
I just wanted, on another note, I don't mean to hijack here, but in speaking of, adaptations in the TV side of things, the unfortunate news just came out that Paramount Plus canceled Halo, the live action show. Season 3 will not be happening, which honestly, I get it, because to Arcane's point, like the Halo creators, Paramount Plus brought in a bunch of people that A, never played Halo, B, decided to create their own timeline and their own storyline in the world, and just basically disregarded a lot of lore. So I'm sad that I don't get to see any live action depictions of Halo content, because the special effects in that show were awesome. Like the special effects, renditions of the elites and the other aliens and stuff, and how they would just blow people away and stuff. It was so cool to see. I just wish that I have to really kind of scold Microsoft for not being better stewards of their own IP here, because they didn't do themselves any services here by letting the IP be wasted by Paramount Plus.
Yeah, that's absolutely a big thing going forward with Hollywood, that I feel like they really need to take a notch from, like The Last of Us. And then I'm biased, I'm going to say it, Sonic the Hedgehog, because I thought the movies were fantastic. But really, The Last of Us was kind of like the pinnacle of, hey, do what the game did to make a show successful, or live adaptation, movie, what have you at that point.
Yeah.
Because the Last of Us was just so genuinely like well received that they stuck almost like, I don't want to say perfectly to the game, but they any changes they made from the game were critically acclaimed in the show for like what they did. I mean, my only complaint was that there weren't enough infected, because I wanted to see Joel and Ellie kick some booty. But I mean, I'm sure more of that's going to be coming at some point. Very curious. I'm very, because again, I'm careful to talk about part 2 with The Last of Us. I'm curious to see how they're going to do season 2, because spoiler alert, there are going to be a lot of upset people if something goes down that happens in the game, and we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it.
No spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
No
Arcane,
spoilers.
did you watch the HBO The Last of Us?
I did, yeah. And similar, I also thought they did a really good job with it. They stuck, like you said, pretty close to the actual game. So I was impressed with what they did with it. So like I said, I'm excited for the next season to see how it goes.
To an extent.
Yeah, a little wary.
Asterisk. Yeah. Right. What about the Fallout show? Have either of you been able? Do you like Fallout first? And were you able to watch the show? And what were your thoughts of it?
So I haven't played any of the games, but I did watch the show, and I did like the show. I thought it was good, but I don't really have anything to compare it to game wise, because I haven't played them.
I do recommend you playing at least Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout New Vegas. So check those out, especially if you like RPGs.
Only a couple games there, right? That's massive games.
Yeah, just a couple.
Just play through all of those before season 2, and you're gonna know everything you need to know about Fallout. No, I played Fallout 3, and then I dabbled a little bit in Fallout 4 before putting that down, because I'm more of a Elder Scrolls guy myself.
Sure.
So I'm one of those suckers that bought Skyrim like 17 times every time they release it.
I think I have it on my fridge now, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean that was really what Bethesda like sunk their teeth into and got me like hooked, line and sinker with that. But the show Fallout show was phenomenal too,
Yeah.
and I did enjoy that a lot too. Where even though they kept it very similar to the games in certain aspects, but they really knocked it out of the park with the changes they made to make it its own entity within the Fallout universe. But I'm curious
Yeah.
how season 2 is going to go along because they again, no spoilers, but at the end of season 1 they put in a really big setting that's going to either make or break a lot of stuff for people because it's based off that very popular game we talked about. So
It's universally adored by the fan base as well. So the one thing that I do like about the Fallout show is that they stuck to the silliness that is that game sometimes. So without giving any plot details or anything, like hypothetically a character gets injured, right? You know, in the game, you can just use one of the consumables, a stim pack. You just shoot yourself with a needle and you heal. Obviously a live action adaptation, you'd have to have a much more realistic depiction of that, right? Oh, you get stabbed in the chest, you're going to need to make sure your internal organs are okay. You're not just going to be able to sort of... No, they stuck to that. The character just stabs themselves with a stim pack and it doesn't matter what happened inside, they're fully healed. And I just love the fact that they stuck to that kind of continuity with the video game and they just leaned into it. It was great.
that's right. That's absolutely right. Well, at this point, I think I'm out of questions to ask Arcane. Ace, do you got anything off the top of your head that you want to ask our lovely guest, or are we about ready to wrap this baby up at this point? All right, Ace is ignoring me. That's fine.
I'm not ignoring you. That's fine. No, I don't have any specific questions. Not at all.
Okay.
We have been actually, before we wrap up today, we have been streaming on my account. If you're interested in the Rings and Things content, and Prowler probably is going to pick up the co-stream and stream on his channel here soon as well. But we are doing a Baldur's Gate 3 run that we are only like an hour and a half in right now. And Prowler has never played the game before. So if you want to watch somebody enjoy Baldur's Gate 3 without any context or anything, make sure you tune into one of our channels as we're going through this. We may be even, streaming relatively regularly. I think on Tuesday evenings on our account. So keep an eye out for that. And that's all I really wanted to plug here, Prowler, today.
Oh, no, you're fine. And I'm sure Arcane's going to appreciate that because she is a Baldur's Gate 3 fanatic, as far as I know, right? Playing with Slum and Zoom regularly.
Baldur's Gate is so much fun.
Good.
It's long, but they did so great with it. And I love D&D too, so it feels like you're playing D&D. So it's a ton of fun with that. And again, like you said, the social aspect. I play with Slum and Zoom. You can have multiple playthroughs, and it's just such a cool collaborative game that you can play with others, with yourself. And every time you play, it's different. You can have so many different run-throughs. And even though you've I've played Act 1 like 5 times, they could be so different from each other.
Yeah. Like I'm having like shock to this because like I've played as a fighter and then I've played as a ranger, and like just the different dialogue options that Larian has baked into this game. Like you just run into a random scenario, you'll be like, oh, because of the wind this way, I'm a ranger, I understand the animal tracks over here. It completely offers a different avenue to come to different conclusions. Nothing, despite it being a linear narrative in Baldur's Gate 3, the lines in which you can follow, it's like a spider web. There's a million different options that you can follow. And there's, something else about the game too, is that you're going to find something in the next playthrough that you never even knew existed. Guaranteed.
Yep. Every time.
Yeah. My favorite part so far is when I tried to open up that sarcophagus and I got blown up by like 15 million fireballs. And I was just like, hey, I'm dead. What does that mean? You're like, game's over. Time to quit. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. That was a lot of fun. Bye.
Great session.
No, it's fun. It's definitely something that if you guys will get a lot of entertainment out of a newbie not knowing what the hell they're doing, you can come watch me just being like, what is that? Like when I got the brain out of that person, it became like my little pet and was like being an adventurous thing. I was like, this is the coolest. I don't know what's happening, but this is my new brain pet and he's awesome. So yeah, at this point, like I said, I think we're good. And absolutely look out for that on Tuesdays. I'll be putting out more information on Discord and on the socials. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Arcane, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us today and answering our crazy questions and just enjoying video games. And we couldn't be more happy to have you as our very first guest on Rings and Things. So thank you.
Thank you. So awesome to have you.
Yeah, and thank you both for having me. This was so cool. I love chatting games with everybody.
Of course. And if for any of our listeners out there, Arcane, can we get either your socials or your Twitch? How can our listeners find you?
Oh yeah, so I am ArcaneHemlock on pretty much all the things. So Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Just look up ArcaneHemlock, one word.
Can I ask how you came up with that name?
Yeah. Oh my God. So thinking of my name took me forever. I probably had like 3 pages of just possibilities to name my channel, but I ended up with this because I really like the definition of arcane. It's, you know, something mysterious, something archaic, kind of hard to comprehend. And I kind of feel like that really resonated with me a lot. And then, you know, the second part of it, I kind of needed something, you know, that sounded cool, was easy to remember. So I thought of hemlock, you know, which is also a type of poison. You know, I kind of have like an edgy side to me too. So I kind of thought like it just fit and it sounded cool. Again, easy to remember, not too hard to spell. So I was like, yes, that sounds good.
That's
Awesome.
That's the perfect way to sum it up right there. So now none of our listeners can complain about not being able to find you because you just talked about what Arcane and Hemlock are. So we're golden. We got exactly what we need. Well, again, I want to thank you, Arcane. It's been an absolute blast. Ace, as always, my dude, it has been super duper fun. That is going to put an end to this podcast. As always, we are powered on by Midnight Ride Productions. If you are interested in either podcasting, blogging, hell, anything media related, come join us. Contact us. We have our website, midnightrideproductions.net. You can reach out to myself, Ace, Burge. We got a bunch of people that you can talk to, and we are always looking for people who are interested in starting their own podcast. Arcane, are you interested in starting your own podcast? I know this was your first one, but are you ready to go? You ready to start your own video game podcast and get going on that?
Potentially. This was really cool. You know, I wouldn't say no.
I can respect you putting her on the spot. That's good.
I had to. That's what I had to do. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure she says yes right now. So again, for anybody out there not named Arcane, if you're interested in Midnight Ride Productions with our media company, please contact us. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you as always. So I think at this point, that about does it. So Ace, my man, we'll see you next time.
Call me or wake me when you need me. I fucked up my own line. There we go.
Oh, that's bad. It's okay. I'll save the show. Okay, ready?
Yeah,
Sonic voice right here. I'll play with you some other time.
Peace.